While Klaus is setting up everything, thank you all for joining. There are some familiar faces among you all, but I'm really happy so many could join us. I have told this story a couple of times already, but the benefit for me is your questions that I would really like you to ask afterwards, because all your questions make me reflect, and then I learn something new about our process. So I'll be happy to take questions after the presentation. So thank you for inviting me here to Preely. I will be talking about how we have accelerated our agile transformation in Nordea Liv Pension, and how we are using design thinking and Google Venture 5-day design sprints. I will go into more details on that and give you a lot of hands-on tips on how we have been using it and are using it still. So the beginning of this story was in April 2016. I was hired into Nordea Liv Pension in a new position, new to Nordea, which was head of digital development. Until then, digital development had been kind of like this stepchild that has been living a bit in IT, a bit in communications, marketing, and all over. And a lot of the development had been going on in India, and the solutions needed a brush up. So what the management did was that they hired me. They signed up with the agency called 1508 to be not only cooperative partners, but we called it partners in crime, because we had a lot to achieve. And then they set a clear vision for where will we be going over the next couple of years. But they also realized that this wouldn't happen overnight, so they set a couple of horizons. The first one being that we just needed to get to the level where the other pension companies had already moved. The success criteria for me and 1508 was that within the year, and this was April, May, within the year, we had to deliver an app, mobile application, showing the customers most important pension informations. We also had to make a cultural transformation. This is the middle part. The cultural transformation involved that we wanted to get quicker time to market, we wanted to be more innovative, and we wanted to co-create with the customers. And least but not last, we wanted 1508 to help us build an in-house team with these new competences that we did not have at this point in Nordea Liv Pensions. So that was why it was not just a consultancy agency, it was partners in crime, because they needed to help Nordea, help me do all of these things. So what we decided to do first was introduce the concept of design thinking to Nordea Liv Pension. I think most of you sitting here know about the design thinking. You know about the double diamond, where you go and talk to your customers first. And this was new for Nordea Liv Pension. We did talk a bit to the customers, but usually you would go and ask the sales force or the customer service, because they talk to the customers. And you would ask them, what does the customer want? Now we wanted to change, and we wanted to talk directly to the customers about this. We wanted to go and ask them, make research, what are your problems, what are your needs? And then we wanted to analyze, what can we do to help this? And then we make hypotheses about how can we solve this. And then once we've made these hypotheses, we would like to do some prototyping, and we would actually like to test it on the customers before we start developing it. Because IT development in the financial sector, as probably in many other sectors, is very expensive. And in Nordea Liv Pensions, we have a lot of old legacy systems that we would need to connect the backend in these systems that we were developing. So our customers are actually registered in a number of backend systems. So it's very expensive to start the real development. That's why we decided prototyping would be a good idea. We also acknowledged that changing a product is pretty easy, but changing the mindset this is where it's going to be hard. So the cultural change, we did not underestimate that. So we had the top management's commitment to this. So this would be a top-down process. But we also made to make a bottom-up process, wanted to make a bottom-up process. And we did this by inviting employees from different parts of Nordea Life Pension to join in this process. So they would not be part of my new team. They would be invited in to work with us for a week and then go back to their own department. And our hope was that they would have had a very interesting week and it would spread like rings in the water. Also, we did a lot of communication. We told the organization, what are we doing? I participated in a lot of meetings in the different departments. I put a lot of articles on our intranet. And every time somebody asked, can we have a meeting where you can tell us what you're doing? I said, of course we can do that. So we communicated a lot about this to spread the word into the organization. Then, least but not last, we really, since we wanted to talk to the customers, we made a customer panel. Because we didn't have a customer panel at Nordea Life Pension at this time, point in time. We had a kickoff on May 1st, where we started up this work on delivering the app within the end of the year. We knew we were gonna have 1 week of preparation, and then we were gonna do a design sprint and build a prototype. And by the end of that week, we needed customers to test this prototype on. And we didn't really have a customer panel. So what we did an article in one of our newsletters that we sent out to 22,000 customers. Do you want to be among the first to see our new digital solutions? Then please join our customer panel. And the marketing department said, well, we usually don't have that good click rates. You're lucky if you will have like 25 or 50. By the end of the day, 150 customers had already signed up, and by the end of the week, we had 500 customers. So, and for different technical reasons, we had to close down for a sign up. So at this point, we still have maybe not 500. I think we have around 480 or something, because people can, of course, unsubscribe. But we still have around 500 customers that we in this panel, where we, in regular intervals, send them new prototypes or suggestions and questionnaires, surveys, so that we involve them in our development. Down here, you can see one of the very first surveys we sent out, because the very first thing we said was, what does the customer want in a pension app, if they want an app? But some customers do want an app to show their pension information. So what do they want and how do they like it? So we made 3 very different presentations. And then we sent it to this customer panel, and we asked them, which one do you like the best? And we really liked the little piggy bank. The customers didn't like that. They liked the very plain one here. A theory could be that the plain one is blue and banking stuff is usually blue. We had a lot of different theories, but anyway, the customers had spoken and we listened to them, and that's where we started developing our app. The team was also allocated a designated area, because we usually there are 2 different models. You can either do it in-house, or you can do like a container model, like Danske has done with Mobile Life. But since we wanted this to be a cultural change, then we wanted to be in the middle of the company. So actually my boss at that time, he had a very nice office in the middle of the company. And we had asked for a meeting room, and the only meeting room we could get that we could occupy for a couple of months in a row was one in the basement. And we really did not want to go to the basement, do a lot of development all secret, and then pop up again and say, ta-da, we made an app. And then the organization would not have been part of this. So my boss, he actually moved out of his very nice office and sat among us in these open seating areas. And then we moved into his office. And we made that a co-creation space where we could have all our drawings, we could have all our inspiration, we could do all our stuff and workshop and invite people in. And also we put a big poster on the door We tried to have the door open as much as possible, and we tried to invite people in. So we said, feel free to pop in, see what we're doing, give your comments, and help us along the way. So that's how we tried to accelerate this cultural change. So the co-creation with the customers and the launch of minimum viable products. What we did was that we chose the method called Google Venture 5-day design sprints. How many have worked with that before? A lot. Okay, but for those of you who haven't, this is a model developed by Google's venture company. They work with startup companies, and startup companies need to test their ideas fast and cheap. So after working with startups for a long time, they refined a model where they could, in just 5 days, take an idea, refine it, build a prototype, and test it on customers. So what you really want to do is that you want to buy this book and read it. It's really hands-on. It's got a shopping list in the back, so for Post-its and stuff like that. And then you want to get a team of 6 to 8 people that is really, they really want to do this. What you do on Monday. The Monday is called Map. So before you started this, then probably your UXer or someone else would have gone and talked to people from your target group. They would have invited or interviewed them about this issue that you wanna work on. Right now in Nordea Liv Pension, we have moved on. We're still working on the app, but it's not our main project right now. Our main project is building a self-service solution to salary administrators with the companies that have their pension scheme with Nordea Liv Pension. So when a large company, could be FL Smith, for example, when they choose Nordea Liv Pension to hold the pension scheme for their employees, then the salary administrator at FL Smith would have to self-serve the company in there. She would have to sign up new employees to the pension scheme, remove employees that resign from the company when they change their salary, etc. So what we did was that we went and we talked to these people. We called them and said, can we come and just sit next to you? Can we see how you work? Can we ask you, what do you like about the current solution? What do you dislike? What are your wishes and needs? And based on that, we did some design sprints on this new solution. So usually before a design sprint, the UXer will have gone and talked to them, and we will just choose one problem that we would like to work on. But in this case, I think we worked on, I don't know. Usually we draw a customer here that's scratching their head, unhappy customer, and then we take the whiteboard and then we draw a happy customer in the other end. And then we start filling in the as-is process, which is everything in between. So, and we are digital development people. We usually do not know the exact process. So we have to invite in experts who can tell us how this is actually happening. So I think this was for our new net pension, but we have also done sprints for how do you make a claim for a critical illness payout. And for that, we would have people who sits in our claims department, and we will ask them, how does this really happen? And they will say, well, then the customer called, and then they go online, and then we send them some papers they have to fill out and sign and back and stuff like that. So we will draw in all of that. And once we have the as-is process, then we will look at it from the customer's view and say, where are the pain points from the customer's point of view? And we would also have our own view and say, where are the pain points from our point of view? Could be that it's expensive to send letters, it could be that it's expensive to have a lot of people answering the phone, etc. And then we will do a lot of these, how might we do it better notes, and we'll put them on the board. So usually within such a process, we find a lot of things that we would like to do better, but we cannot cover them all in a week. So the person that is the decider in this design sprint will have to draw a line saying, we will only work on this part this week. There are a lot of other good ideas, and we always document by photos and wrapping up. So there could be that we will say, oh, there's also some issue here. We will not do it this week, but we will put it on our ideas list, and we will look at it at some other point. So, but for this sprint, we decided to just work on this part, and you can see maybe this. And for the first lot of sprints, I was the decider, and it's actually very hard because, of course, you want to make everything better for the customers, but you also have to narrow in the scope so it's realistic that you can actually cover it in a week. So what you do on Tuesdays, once you have decided the scope, is that you will try and get some inspiration. Usually Monday evening when people go home, you will ask them to think about inspiration as homework until Tuesday. So when we meet up Tuesday, we will usually print out our inspiration sheets. And when I show my husband pictures like this, he laughs and he says, I thought you were a digital department. Why do you have all this paper on the wall? But the reason we have the paper is because once you put it up there, people can always come back to it. When they think there was a really good idea there, I would like to put it into my suggestion, they can always come back and look at it. If we only looked at it at a screen, then it's gone and you will have to look it up again. So what we do is that everybody has seeked out some inspiration. It can be different apps they already have where they really like the navigation or the color or an icon or a call to action or something like that. It can be web pages, it can be a lot of things. So what we do is we put it up all up here, and everybody has, it's very time boxed, so everybody has maybe 1 minute to explain why they like this inspirational sheet. Then we just leave it there. We put small notes. The team can also say, oh yeah, I really like that also, but I also like this or something like that. So we put little notes on what did we like. And then afterwards, we sit down and then we sketch ideas. We start sketching ideas. And we do it together, but we do it individually. So there will be all quiet in the room because everybody will do their own work, but we will do it in the same room. So we usually put on some light music and have some coffee, and people can sit drawing, but there will be very quiet in the room. When we are doing digital solutions for a screen, like web solutions, we will usually draw on paper. Everybody will have 3 pieces of paper, and they can draw 3 different screens in this flow that we are trying to define. If we are making solutions for a mobile phone, then we will draw on Post-its because they have almost the same size as the screen on your phone. So everybody will get 3 Post-its they will put in there. So it doesn't matter if you're good at drawing or not, because usually that's a barrier when you invite people from different parts of the organization. They will say, I can't draw. It doesn't matter. It's okay to put some text and a little square. It's also okay out here to say, this is actually a guy cycling. If you're not sure, people can see it, etc. So you can write explanatory text. That's not the important thing. The important thing is to try and get as many ideas as possible. So in the double diamond of the design thinking process, we are here at the widest point. We're trying to get as many ideas as possible. So we sit there and we do that during the Tuesday. Then on Wednesdays, we put all these ideas up in what we call the gallery. So you don't put your own name on the idea. You usually give the idea a name. This is called Simplex, and here's one called Min Pension, etc. So it doesn't really matter. You can just, or the simple flow, or whatever you like to name your idea, but don't put your own name on there because that's not the important thing here. It's not a competition. Then everybody in silence will walk around and look at this gallery. They will look at all the solutions. You don't talk, you don't tell people this is my solution and do you understand that you jump from there to there and then over here. It's just very silent. Everybody walks around and look at the solutions. And then we do democracy. Because if we had to all agree on something, it would take forever. Everybody would have to talk and just not time for it. So again, a very time-boxed exercise where you are allowed to put a number of dots, 3, 5, whatever the facilitator of the sprint decides. So you will put dots on what you like. So if you like the whole thing, you'll put a dot up here. If you like one feature, you'll put the dot by the feature. So this is the way we decide which ideas we like. After we have done one round of votes, then everybody has 30 seconds to explain their idea. Because if you're not very good at drawing, maybe people missed out on the point of your idea. So you get 30 seconds to tell about your idea, and then people get another round of dots, maybe 3 dots, so that they can say, oh, okay, now that you explained it, I really like this. We can do it in another way, but I like the thought behind it. So they can dot again. After we have dotted, the decider will decide and have the final votes on which ideas will go into this week's prototype. And sometimes some people have drawn some things where we say, this is a really, really good idea, but we don't think it will work for this solution. So sometimes we will even take some of the ideas and put them on the wall in our digital development room and save it for later, or even in my office or something like that. So we'll save it for later, but we'll say it's not going to be part of this prototype. So once the decider has decided on which solutions to put in the prototype to test on customers, then we do a storyboard. And my advice to you would be start off small. I think in the beginning we did 5 or 6 screens because we had to build everything from scratch. And it doesn't have to be fancy and very nice in the beginning, but still it takes time to build a prototype, and you only have 1 day to do it. So on Wednesdays you have to remember whatever we draw on this whiteboard today, we'll have to be able to build tomorrow. So, but now we have built a lot of prototypes, and we have a lot of elements that we can combine now. Usually, because it's financial stuff, when we do a process, people will at some point have to sign by their NemID. So of course we do have NemID screens that we can just put in there now. So I think now we are up to 12 to 15 screens in our prototype. The more accurate you make the storyboard on Wednesdays, the easier it is for the people to build the prototype the next day. But it does take time, because you can either just write like this, small lines, but that means on Thursday when you're building the prototype, you can maybe not just put small lines, you will have to put in actual text that the customer understands so that they know the context. And sometimes the UXer is building the prototype, but the UXer is not the person who knows the products. So the UXer will not be able to write this text themselves. So my advice would be, try and make this fairly accurate, at least in the beginning. Then on Thursdays, we will build the prototype. And again, it can be teamwork. It depends on how many people you have that are actually capable of building a prototype. We have used the Marvel app, and we have used InVision for this. The drawings are made in Sketch first, right, Kasper? Kasper's my UXer. He's here. He's and as long as he's not shaking his head, then I'm happy. And then what we also have to do is we also have to prepare the test for Friday. So usually the UXer and maybe one other person will build the prototype, while the rest of the team will prepare the test. And we have to make sure that the test includes all these questions that we wanted answered. On Monday, when we were drawing the whole process, we discovered all these pain points. We decided on which solution do we want to build. Then we also decided on what do we want answered by the end of the week. And we need to incorporate these questions in the test preparation. What we do on Friday is that usually around 10 o'clock, we send out either the prototype or just a few screens from the prototype to our digital panel. We will, in the beginning, we just used MailChimp for our digital panel. It's freeware. It worked fine for us. It didn't work fine for Nordea for compliance reasons. So we had to change to a more secure system, Nordea-wise. But we use Typeform to make the surveys. So we combine these two systems. So we send out a mail with a link, and then the questionnaire is in Typeform. And we sent it out around 10 o'clock. We have good experience with that. And then around 2 or 3 o'clock, we have around 100 responses, at least. In the beginning, we had more. Now we have a little less. But we have enough to give us a very strong indication of what do they like and what do they dislike about this prototype. You could see actually in the beginning, this is our customer panel. We had a click rate of almost 85 and a response rate of almost 70% in the beginning. So that was very overwhelming. Then, of course, we did a few weeks in a row. And then actually, this low point was that we had made a video on how we work with the design sprint. And we sent that to them as a, maybe not a gift, but as an information on, well, thank you for your input. Now we can show you how we've been working. And they really did not care about that. They wanted to give input. They really didn't care about how we worked, it seemed. What we do on Fridays also is that we also do qualitative testing so that we can combine the qualitative and the quantitative test results. So we usually find 5 customers that we either invite to join us at Nordea Liv Pension, or we will call some of our large corporate customers and ask if they have 5 employees that we can borrow for each half an hour, each of them for half an hour during the day. And then we'll go to their workplace. We will sit with them for half an hour each, and just one person will interview them. It will be a think aloud test where they will try out this prototype. We will either show them a phone or have a laptop, and they can try out this prototype. The person interviewing them will, of course, ask them questions or even ask them to elaborate more on their comments. And then we will use just Skype or FaceTime or whatever works, and we'll transmit it over to another meeting room where the rest of the team will be sitting and watching on a big screen. And they will be taking notes. And these are the notes you see here. So these are about the person, and then there's the welcome screen, and then there's the overview screen and stuff like that. And these will be the different persons we have interviewed here. And then we will put green post-its for stuff they like, and red post-its for stuff they didn't like as much and that we might need to change a bit. So what is really interesting is that by watching people, you can see if they are trying to scroll instead of swipe, if they're trying to click on something that's not clickable. You can see if they are like doing like this and they have to go back and say, I don't really understand. Because when you ask the customer panel, you won't get this type of response. So you will get I didn't like this button or I didn't like this color, but you don't get the real, I had to go back twice to understand the flow. So, so by having the 5 customers we interview, and by having the digital panel with 500 customers that will answer us during the day, or most of them, then by Friday when we go home, we will have a pretty good indication on how did this prototype work with the customers. So we usually wrap up Friday around 4 or 5 o'clock, and Monday morning when we meet in, we will decide should the UXer just do the minor changes to this prototype and then we'll just give it to the developers because it was such a hit, or should we maybe do or should the UXer do just a fresh up of it and put all these changes in there and maybe do a small test for just 2 people? Or do we need to maybe make a 2 or 3 day sprint again, where we sprint again on this idea and try and think it a bit different based on the feedback? So this is actually the full model, the full 5-day model, where, as I told you, yeah, we usually we refine, we retest, and then we give it to the development. So in the beginning, we did it fairly strict. So if you haven't done these sprints before, we may be recommending that you follow the book, you follow the 5-day sprint, you follow the exercises that are in there. But now that we've done, I don't know, a number of sprints, we just sometimes pick some of the exercises and we put together maybe a 1-day sprint, a 2-day sprint, a 3-day sprint. And what we also learned is a lot of these experts and people from the organization, it can be very hard to have them commit for 5 days for a sprint. And usually on Thursday when we build prototype and prepare the test, they don't really know what to contribute with. So what we've done the last couple of times is that we have made a 2 or 3 day sprint with all the people, with the people from the organization. And then afterwards, we have stopped when we reached the storyboard. Either we have made the storyboard with the team, or we have said thank you before we made the storyboard. And then the next day, maybe Casper, our UXer, and 1 or 2 people will make the storyboard, and then we'll build the prototype without the involvement of the people from the organization, unless we have questions and need clarification. And then we will test it, and we will invite them to come and see the test, and we will even encourage them to come and see the test because it's very enlightening. But it's not mandatory for them, and we have found that helps. That they don't have to commit to a full week. But sometimes the back side of the medal is that sometimes I wouldn't say we get sloppy, but we get caught up in other things, and then we build a prototype and we can't really find time to find customers to test it on, or to find time to test it, and then we just put it in the backlog and say we'll test it later. And now we actually do have a couple of prototypes that needs testing. They're ready, but they haven't been tested yet. So we need to catch up on that. But where we are at right now is that we actually do have a lot of prototypes that has been tested, that has been given to development, and they are developing it in bits. And it just takes a lot of time when you have to connect with all the legacy systems in the back. So the development time is much longer than the design time. So right now we have built up quite a backlog for the development team. So we are in a process right now where we don't do as many design sprints as we used to, but we do a lot of development. And of course, it's also fulfilling to launch these solutions and actually see them live. But I also feel we are at a point right now where we need to be creative again. So I think we'll have to just do small design sprints on some of the things to refine them. How am I on time? Oh, I'm okay. Good. So I already told you some of the things to consider when you try to implement this agile, fail-fast approach in such a well-established culture. I just, for fun, drew our organizational diagram so you can see what we are up against here. This is Nordea, all the way up here, our CEO. And then it's like one of these Russian dolls that you keep opening, and there's one more and one more and one more. So all the way down here through wealth management, Life and Pension Denmark, here we are digital development. So we had to start the movement from here. But actually, a lot of people from all around these places have been calling me and us and ask, can you come and help us get started with this? So after we started this, it actually spread, not only in Nordea Liv Pension Denmark, but it has also spread, so now they use it in Nordea Liv Pension in Norway. They use it in Nordea Finance, which is one of the other of these. They use it in Nordea HR, and they use it in Nordea Markets. So, and we all made small communities where we could try and make best practice experiences, etc., and just share those. Nordea Liv Pension has been sold now from Nordea to a customer organization. So now we will be just ourselves. So we will not be family anymore, but we will still be friends, of course. So I'm hoping that that this all these good experience for us that we have, that will continue those on some level. But it's been interesting to see how we could come from all the way down here and make things happen all around in this huge organization. Nordea is also an old organization, very traditional, has the motto best in class on compliance. Some of you might have heard about the Panama ordeal. And after that, they were really strict about compliance. This sometimes does not work very well with an agile fail-fast approach because you have to be willing to take some risks if you're going to get out there fast with some minimum solutions. So some of the obstacles we had to overcome was that we had to go from this we know best to a co-creation. This was one of the things. Usually we thought we knew what the customers want. And again, we asked the sales force or the customer service if we wanted to know what the customer wanted. But to go from that and just putting the customer in focus, actually asking them and co-creating with them, that was very new. One of the other things we also had to change was the concept of a business case. Because in a large financial organization, a business case is always good if you have positive numbers. If it will boost your sales or increase volume or premium income or stuff like that. But some of the solutions we do here are service applications, service solutions. They are not sales solutions. So we could not say that just because we build an app or a new net pension that we will have more customers. Maybe the customers would be more happy so they wouldn't leave us, but to transform that into real money, that is just very hard. So we had to find new KPIs to show the organization that we were successful in what we were doing. So we have started using the Net Promoter Score. I think most of you know that. Where we would ask on each of the application, what are or would you recommend this solution, exactly this solution to one of your colleagues or friends? And then we would also introduce the customer effort score, which was very new to the organization. This is where you ask a customer to do something or find an information, go through a self-service flow or something like that, and you will ask them how big an effort was it. Was it very easy or was it very hard? And then we have made very strict KPIs on the level of Net Promoter Score and the level of the customer effort score that we need to reach on these new solutions that we built. And I find that that has been pretty good. It's good for us to know that we are a success, and it's good to have something tangible to communicate to the management that we are actually a success, even though we don't sell more pension policies. Then we had to address this fear of fail, which is very common in the financial sector, and say that it's okay to fail fast if you learn from it, of course. Because fail fast would be in the approach that we would just do 1 week of design sprint, and then we would know if the idea was good or not. We have not spent 1 year or 2 years and 40 millions on doing, I don't know, a big, huge solution that the customers didn't want. So, but addressing the management and say, I know we are used to develop everything into the tiniest detail, should be 100% correct. We test for eternities before we launch something. We don't want to do that anymore. We want to do 80% solutions. We want to throw them out there and try them out on the customers. And if they don't like it, either we'll draw them back or we will tweak them so that they will like it. And that is a bit, in Danish I would say angstprovokerende, but it's out of their comfort zone to say yes to this. What I did for our newest project with this self-solution for the salary administrators was that I went to the management and I said, please give me a year, give me 8 people. I don't know exactly where we will land, but I know that it will be great and the customers will like it. And they actually said yes. And that was because we had an existing solution that was old, but not really problematic. So it was more nice to have that we needed this new system. So they trusted us and they said, yes, just go. And we went and we talked to them. We developed a customer panel, especially for these salary administrators. Kasper has been interviewing a lot of them. We have made prototypes, we tested, and now we are developing. And the old system is kind of failing now. So this makes the management a bit more eager to have plans. So now they ask us questions, when are you going to deliver? What are you going to deliver? What can we tell the customers? And so right now we are in a bit of a tough spot where we say, well, we don't know exactly when we can deliver. We don't know exactly what we will deliver. We have shown the prototypes to the customers. They like it, so it's basically that we will develop and deliver. But we will deliver it in small bits and pieces. And if we deliver something at this point, and it turns out that the customers just really didn't like it, then instead of just developing the next one because we have a plan and we have to stick to the plan, then of course we have to go back and refine this before we put more on the solution that doesn't work. So this means I cannot tell you that you will have this exact feature at this exact point, because if the 2 or 3 features that we will put in there first, if they fail, then we have to go back to the drawing board and try and make something new. So we are getting there. We are launching small bits. They are seeing that it works. So I went from a role where it was just me and I did a lot of design sprints with the people from 1508 to now I'm the manager of the team, and I'm trying to keep all of these obstacles away from the people so that they can work the way they do best with this method. So what have we achieved with all of this? Well, if we start with the internal successes, actually we did go from idea to app in just 23 work weeks. And that is pretty impressive in the financial sector with that many legacy systems to connect to. We also made an internal measurement of how the employees see our innovation capabilities. And in 1.5 years, we saw a pretty good increase in our self-understanding of our innovative capabilities. Also, we have built not only 1 now, but 3 different customer panels. We still have the original one. We use that for digital development for end users like yourselves. We have now the panel just for these salary administrators, because of course you cannot show a salary administrator solution, self-service solution to a regular customer. It doesn't make sense. You have to have this specific target group. And then we have a communication panel where we are trying to send out bits and pieces from our letters, because our letters, they're a whole chapter for themselves. It's legal stuff, it's just very hard to understand. And we want to test it on the customers, ask them, do you understand the message? And we also ask them things like, how did you feel after reading this letter? And that is very new. Did you feel frustrated, angry, happy, enlightened, confused, stuff like that. And then we give that back to the people writing the letters. Then we went from just being me and 1508. Now I use 1508 when I want some strategic advice, but I basically use them when I need more hands, because now I do have hands of my own. I have people with these new competences. I have product owners, I have scrum masters, I have user experience specialists, front-end development people that are actually here and not in India. And I have someone who can test and quality assure these solutions. So we are a full working team now. And we also have made solutions that has increased the Net Promoter Score and has increased the customer effort score. So external recognition, we are very proud that in 2017, we were among the finalists to the Copenhagen FinTech Innovation Award, based on building a startup within a well-established organization. And this year we were shortlisted to a Danish Design Award for the design of our mobile application. And for that, for the Danish Design Award, we made a small video that I will show you here, and then I will wrap up and you can ask questions. Yeah. So what you saw just shortly was the first version, and then it moved on to a later version. One of the things we do now that we have launched our app is also that we follow it through web trends. We see how the users use it. In the beginning, we had the hypothesis that people would use the app to go and see what will my pension payout be when I retire. But what we could see that we actually have users that are using our app daily, and what they want to see is the investment result on their pension scheme. So we have actually taken the investment result on their pension scheme and moved to the front page, so that is the very first thing you see, and then moved the other stuff a bit further behind. So this is the way we keep optimizing based on behavior. So let's see if I can, yep, this is the final slide. Just wanted to give you some key takeaways. Preparation, get acceptance from your top management to start this transformation. Then I would say buy the Google Venture Sprint book and read it. It's pretty hands-on. Find a team of people who would really like to participate. And then also create a co-creation, a forum of customers that you can co-create with. Because if you don't have customers to test your prototype on, it just doesn't work. And then step 2 is just do a sprint. Remember to design the dream, because what sometimes happens when we have people from the organization in our design sprints will be, yeah, that would be very nice, but our systems just can't handle that. Well, forget about that. Right now we are designing the dream. Afterwards we'll have to cut it into size and start with an MVP that the systems can handle, and then we'll have to work on getting the systems to be able to handle what we would really like to show the customers. So keep on, hold on to the dream and design that. Then build a prototype and start very small. It has to be a minimum viable product. The customers just have to believe that it's kind of real. Sometimes we actually build them too real, and they will say, I don't understand this because I don't really have a life annuity, so why have you put that in here? And we're like, well, it's not your number, it's just random numbers we put in there. Oh, okay. And then we'll turn to the next page and they'll say, but I don't have a critical illness coverage either. And we're like, no, but it's still not your data, it's still just test data. And that happens a lot. Sometimes we have just taken these post-its that we have drawn on, we take picture of them, and we'll just put them into a flow. So that can also work for a very simple prototype to test on. And then just make sure you test on your customers, and then go back to step 2, refine and do development. This was all I had for now.